Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to all of you for your nominations. Ms. Connolly, anyone who was born in Jersey City, New Jersey, could probably do very well in Lebanon. So, Ambassador Ricciardone, I am very interested in your assignment. I think it's a very important one for a variety of reasons. And I have had concerns in the past about our relationships with Turkey over several things, but of late it's taken a whole new bent beyond what I am traditionally concerned about. I look at Turkey's vote against the United Nations resolution that was really a consensus of the international community and its NATO partners as it relates to Iran, and it troubles me. I look at Turkey's overtures with Iran, and while we respect their right to do so, it further troubles me. I look at where it was with the State of Israel and a relationship that we thought was flourishing. And then certainly, while there are those who would understand Turkey's positions with reference to what took place in the flotilla, in some respects understand it. I don't know why you'd nurture advocating for the flotilla to take place, but nonetheless, when you see the nature of Erdogan's statements after that, what is happening here?
Senator, if confirmed,
You'll solve all of that?
I'd love to promise that. No, I will go with that question uppermost in my mind. When the chairman introduced the topic earlier, he talked about the positive influence of Turkey with the word if. It serves as a moderate alternative to Iran. And that struck me because when I served in Turkey in the past, that word if would never have come up. We always saw Turkey as, beyond any question, an example for other states in the region, as a Muslim-majority state that was a secular democracy, an imperfect democracy, but one struggling toward it and one that has made great strides. There was never a question in the past. I've been out of Turkey over a decade. I need to understand for myself how the country has evolved and changed. From the outside, one reads, you see these developments. There are many positive things, civilian control of the military. We were there when my daughter was born there. Nearly 3 decades ago, we were there for a coup. Now those days are unthinkable. On the vote on UNSCR in 1929, President Obama has called it unfortunate and disappointing. We expect Turkey to use its influence. We hope Turkey will use its influence in the region in ways to persuade Iran that it has no alternative to the diplomatic track that is going on with the permanent 5 members of the Security Council plus Germany and the IAEA. We had hoped and expected that Turkey would do that. We are reassured that even after that vote, which so disappointed us, Turkey in unqualified, unequivocal terms expressed its commitment to uphold the Security Council decision as a matter of international law. That, for us, is the bottom line, and we're encouraged by that. On Israel, likewise, we are concerned about the deterioration in relations. When I served there in the past for many years, too many years, Israel was represented in Ankara at the second secretary level. I'm glad that, if my information is correct, the Israeli ambassador remains in Ankara even through this stressful time. We certainly hope that the Turkish ambassador will return to Tel Aviv. We hope that the rhetoric on both sides will calm. It'll be a huge part of my task to try to encourage a return to a balance in that relationship. In that, I think Turkey recognizes if it wants to be an influential player in the Middle East conflict, it has to have a strong, normal relationship with Israel if it wants to have influence in that conflict. You can't be a partisan of one side and have influence. I think the Turks understand that, and it'll certainly be my responsibility, if you confirm me, to underscore that.
Well, I appreciate your reflection. I have a problem when I see Turkey's diplomatic assertiveness seems to me owing partly to growing economic ties with Iran. They plan to boost their trade from $10 to $30 billion a year. Iran plans to supply Turkey with 10 BCMs of natural gas annually, which is second only to Russia. You know, and the rate in which they automatically, and despite everything that was going on in 2009, recognized Ahmadinejad. I mean, I see all of these things, and I just don't think they're happenstance. And this is a NATO ally. And so it worries me. It also worries me about some other issues. When I look at these new developments as well as the developments of issues that I have a real concern, what would you as the ambassador do should you be confirmed as it relates to you know, Turkey's position on Cyprus? It has been our view that this should be a reunited you know, bizonal, bicommunal federation. That is the view of the President of the United States. But yet we have Mr. Erdogan and his government continuing to advocate that there are two states on the island, a position that is diametrically contrary to our position. What would be your position? What would you be doing as an ambassador to our ambassador to move Turkey in what has been now, unfortunately, an incredibly long-standing division of the island? And secondly, on a different subject but equally important, what would you be advocating as our ambassador as it relates to the question of the Armenian genocide? It is a critical issue. I don't believe that you can move forward at the end of the day and having the reconciliation that one would like to see unless there is an acknowledgement. And I certainly hope that you will never be in the position, and I'd like to ask you that question as my third question, of ever expressing regrets over the actions of the United States Congress, whatever those actions may take, as it relates to the Armenian genocide. That has happened in the past. And, you know, I certainly would like to know whether you ever think it is, in your view, acceptable to express regret or otherwise apologize for actions of the United States Congress, particularly those that address issues of human rights.
Thank you, Senator, for those questions. On the last one first, on all of them, you asked me, clearly we don't have personal policies that you send us forward to push. We uphold the policies, the programs, the laws, the interests of the United States government and as given to us by Congress and as determined by the administration. On the question of the congressional resolution, obviously we stand behind the statements of President Obama and Secretary Clinton. President Obama has spoken very forcefully about the events of 1915 as one of the worst atrocities of the 20th century. He cited the number of 1.5 million people massacred. He used the word massacre, talked about marching them to their deaths. He's been very forthright in speaking about it. Our aim, of course, is to do all possible to get a normalization of Armenian-Turkish relations on the one hand, and a part of that clearly has to be a frank, full, and just acknowledgement of the history that those two peoples and countries share. And if confirmed, I will certainly keep working for that to the best of my ability in every way possible. On the question of Cyprus, successive administrations that I've served, Republican and Democrat, have advocated a bicommunal, bizonal federation. At various times we've come closer to that or drifted farther from it. At the moment, the leaders of the two communities are in talks with each other. That's an encouraging thing. I'll have to read back into it more closely. Our task in Ankara has always been to get the Turkish government to support the Turkish community in Cyprus doing the responsible thing and staying in close negotiations with the Greek Cypriot counterparts. Clearly would keep after that and keep pushing it to the best of our ability. That island has been divided for far too long. we believe that there should be it should be reunited as soon as possible.
You've been in Turkey in the past.
I have indeed, Senator.
And what was your position then?
I started my career there in Ankara, 1979, in the Carter administration. I was in Ankara and then in Adana. I returned for Operation Provide Comfort, based out of Incirlik, Turkey, covering northern Iraq in the early 90s for about 6 months. I returned yet again as the Deputy Chief of Mission and Chargé in the mid-90s.
When you were the Deputy Chief of Mission, did you ever go to an Armenian genocide celebration?
I never was conscious that there was a genocide celebration, but let me tell you about a place I went in my
commemoration, I should say. I'm sorry.
There wasn't one. What I did do as an individual officer in my very first tour is go to the ghost town of Harput. I don't know whether you've heard of it or know about it, but it was one of the scenes of a vibrant Armenian community. I went there deliberately when I was a vice consul in Adana. When I was chargé, I visited with the Armenian Patriarch. When I was chargé, I also welcomed Armenian American citizens in their visits there, helped them make visits, helped them make contacts. That's the kind of activity I would anticipate doing again if confirmed.
Let me, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I see no other members here, if the chair would indulge me. Let me ask you, I wonder at times how forceful, maybe you could give me an insight in the previous positions that you've held. Obviously, there's a broad diplomatic agenda, and there's economic issues, security issues, a whole host of bilateral issues that we care about. We care about Turkey in the context of a multilateral forum, such as NATO. But how does one choose to press and or send strong messages? I get a sense that in those who have been in Turkey as our representatives have not sent a very strong message about the whole question of the division of Cyprus. And while we say that we seek a bizonal, bi-communal federation and a reunification of the island, I really wonder what our U.S. ambassador in Turkey says, other than to I won't use the word parrot, but to say that this is our policy. What type of focus do we give it in order to send a very clear message that it seems well after a quarter of a century that it's time for the most militarized place probably in the world in terms of the space and number of people, that it is time to move in a different direction as Turkey tries to achieve the very goals that you so aptly stated it supposedly aspires to.
Senator, we raised the issue, we pressed the issue. I have a very vivid memory of doing so. In fact, I was chargé at that particular moment in the late 90s when the then special negotiator Richard Holbrooke came through. It was the second time I worked closely with Holbrooke out of 3 times now that I've done that. I can tell you they were very forceful presentations, as they always are with Richard Holbrooke, and that's what we did at the time I was there. We would continue doing the same and try to just present the logic of it, how it's in Turkey's interest to see that problem resolved so that Turkey can move on. Again, if Turkey wants to be the player on not just the regional stage, but the world stage that it clearly aspires to do, to take Turkey's own words, if they want to have a zero problem foreign policy, this is one of the big problems they've got to tackle. We keep reminding them of that. Express our readiness to work with them and point out the facts.
So if you are confirmed as the ambassador to Turkey, would you tell me that this is in fact one of the key issues that you will be advocating for Turkey to deal with and to understand the seriousness of our purpose?
Senator, I can assure you that I understand the seriousness of it. It would be a priority. Cyprus, Armenian normalization, relations with Israel, relations with Iran, trade with Iran, support in Iraq, support in Afghanistan, relations even with Greece and stability and peace in the Aegean. All these things are on the agenda. They are all highly important, and we've got to keep all of those those balls in the air.
Well, I appreciate your answers. I have some other questions, but I won't belabor the committee's time. I'll just submit them in writing, but I appreciate your answers and look forward to the rest of them.
Thank you, Senator. If confirmed, I hope you'll come and visit.
Well, if confirmed, I may be very well happy to visit you under the right set of circumstances. I really think Turkey is an important ally, but I also think that you can't have, as the chairman's talked about, the ecumenical patriarch and the school at Halki and persecution of religious freedom. You can't, have this type of unique relationship you want with the United States and vote against us on a critical question for the world like Iran. You can't ultimately continue the most incredible militarization when there's no threat to Turkey whatsoever and the division of Cyprus. I mean, all of these, I don't understand how the Turkish leadership does not understand that it is in its interest to move beyond that agenda, or for that fact come to a historical recognition of what most of the world recognizes as it relates to the Armenian genocide. We can move beyond, we can come to an understanding, and then we can have, hopefully, greater progress of a secular government that really participates very fully in the world. But I wonder at times whether in our just security interests are we willing to overlook everything else. And that's why I have spent all of this time asking you these questions, with all due respect to the other nominees who are going to very important assignments as well, and I'll submit some questions for them. But this is one place in which we've got to be able to have someone who's going to clearly send the right set of our interests and do it strongly so we can move to a new era. This decade is coming to an end. The next one starts. We need to make a lot better progress than we have. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience, Chair.